Pauline Peters, and I'm the clinical team lead for the Getting Help services in Windsor and Maidenhead. So thank you very much for having me here this morning, and I do hope that you find the presentations that we have for you today very informative and useful. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of where the Getting Help services sit within CAMS. So CAMS stands for the Children and Adolescents Mental Health Services. And the Getting Help services consist of two teams. They consist of the mental health support team and the Getting Help team, and they come under the umbrella of CAMS. We work very closely with schools as well as the Early Help Hub, in particular, Achieving for Children's Wellbeing team. So that's a little bit about where we sit as a service. Okay, today I've got a little bit of feedback, and I wonder if I can just ask people to turn their microphones off. Really helpful. Thank you very much. So what I'll be covering today is just a little bit of context as to why we've got to...
Pauline, there's still quite a lot of content. To balance that, could you try to go on mute? I think and then... Oh, apparently, oh, that's better.
That's better. Thank you, Jo. So I thought I'd start by giving you an overview of, start off with some context as to why we've got early intervention and preventative.
Pauline, I can see your lips moving, but I can't hear you. Is that the same for everyone else?
I can hear her. I can hear her.
Try speaking again, Pauline, see if that works.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Jo?
No.
It may be your end then, Jo, because I've got hands up from Chris.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it just me that can't hear? Okay. Sorry.
I can hear.
Sorry.
Okay. Shall I continue then, Jo? Is that, yeah? Okay. So I'll start off by giving some background information as to why we have the early intervention and preventative services. Then I'll give an overview of the Getting Help and mental health support teams, how to access our services, and then maybe touch on, if we've got time, about the whole school approach and sustaining mental health well-being within schools. Okay, so first and foremost, why are we here? So over the past few years, the government and the NHS have been involved in reviewing the mental health services across the UK. And the findings were published in the NHS's long-term plan and the green paper, the government's green paper. And during the service review, young people and families shared how hard it was for them to access services. And some of the information that they gave us was that they don't always know where to go to get help. They've been told that they don't meet the threshold for CAMS. And even when they do meet the threshold for CAMS, the waiting lists are too long. So hence why there was this transformation change around how we provide services that are accessible and timely for children who are experiencing emerging mental health issues. So one of the things that the Getting Help team and the mental health support teams aim to do, or several things that they aim to do, is offer early intervention so that children and young people, where possible, ideally are seen within 4 weeks if they have emerging health issues. Offer support to children and young people who don't meet the criteria for specialist CAMS. Now, that is quite a tall order because there are some children and young people who will benefit from early intervention. There are some children and young people who don't meet the threshold for specialist CAMS, but are sitting somewhere in the middle of this gap and still not being able to access early support in a timely manner. And then thirdly, the service should be visible in the community. So working with schools and the local authority so that children and young people know exactly where to go for help. So that is the reason why we exist, because the service was a bit clunky, I should say, in the past, and a bit hit and miss. Okay, I just want to touch on this slide briefly, because in CAMS at the moment, or in the past, we've had a tiered model. So tier 1 is universal services, tier 2 is early intervention, tier 3 specialist CAMS, and tier 4 is crisis. So the Thrive framework is trying to move away from the tiered model. And what it's introduced is getting help and advice across community and CAMS services. So you don't have to go one place for that information, but it's more joined up. So when I refer to the getting help services, we come under the green and the blue area where it talks about getting advice and getting help, which is signposting and also gold focused treatments and outcomes. So it's evidence-based treatment. The purple area where it says getting more help is where the tier 3 services currently sit. So that's where you need more specialist support. So from your eating disorder teams, from your ADHD pathway, anxiety and depression pathway, that's the getting more help. And where you've got getting risk support, that is your crisis intervention, A&E, and support from that area. In the middle, where it says thriving, that's the preventative work that we as an organisation, along with the local authority, voluntary sector, parents and carers, and any other stakeholders, that's where we provide advice, guidance, training, so that we prevent mental health issues escalating. So we're starting very early and providing education and support. So going back to the teams, the Getting Help team consists of a service manager, team lead, which is myself, an administrator, and then we have several practitioners. So a couple of the practitioners are clinical supervisors. We have 3 practitioners within the team called children and wellbeing practitioners. 2 of them are trained and 1 is a trainee. We always have a trainee in post who is on a training program for about a year. They will not necessarily receive employment by us, but they have a training placement with us. And I'll talk a little bit about what the interventions that they offer later on in the presentation, but that's the makeup of the Getting Help team. We also have the mental health support team. Again, you've got your service manager and your team lead and administrator. We've got a number of vacancies in this team, but the practitioners are again made up of staff who are training, and they are called education mental health practitioners. When they complete their training though, they do have permanent positions within the team. So they start off with training, and they started their training in January of this year. And in order to complete their training, they have to be supported by schools so that they can work with the schools and children and young people attending those schools to develop their skill set in order to offer informed CBT. So that's the mental health support team. There is a group of around 14 schools within Windsor and Maidenhead that they work with, and 4 of those schools are referred to as host schools. So the schools that will support them in their training year. So my next slide just shows you a list of the schools that are part of the partnership. The ones highlighted in green are called the host schools, and they have agreed to support the learning and development of the trainees from January of this year until the end of the summer term. From September of this year, the practitioners will work in all 14 schools. So if you have a child or young person attending any of these schools listed here, rather than you going through the Getting Help support team, which I mentioned earlier, to receive help, you'll go directly to one of these schools. Okay. So I mentioned that we work a lot with our partners, and I'm going to ask Rebecca Askew to speak about the partnership work that we do with the wellbeing team, just to give you a better understanding of how we join up our working.
Hello, good morning everyone. My name is Rebecca Askew. I'm Senior Specialist Educational Psychologist working for Achieving for Children in the Royal Borough. And I also manage the wellbeing team, and was managing until a short time ago the behaviour support team. I'm also a link educational psychologist for 4 schools in the borough, which include the First Platt schools and Manor Green. Yeah, so there's a lot of partnership working that's going on between the AFC, our wellbeing team, and obviously Pauline Peters and the team at CAMS, both with regards to the Getting Help teams and service that Pauline has just explained, which, as Pauline was saying, was very much to support early identification, early support for mild to moderate difficulties, whether that's therapeutic or indeed giving advice to school setting staff. That's very much underway now and has been very successful. And I think it's worked particularly well because we already had a wellbeing team in the Royal Borough, and actually have had a wellbeing team in the Royal Borough for around 6 years now. So it was actually quite a smooth transition linking up with CAMS and taking that service forward. Which has been in place for the last year. As Pauline said, we're also doing lots of work now to prepare for the full launch of the mental health support teams in those 14 schools from September. But alongside, there's a lot of work going on with regard to training, supporting our schools. So our wellbeing team and our Getting Help team work very closely together. Taking cases predominantly through our Early Help Hub, which is about early identification, early support. So that support really encompasses largely one-to-one therapeutic support. Our wellbeing team, just to give you a bit of a brief background to that, it's made up of 3.2 full-time equivalent practitioners. We have a play and creative arts therapist, an art psychotherapist, a counsellor, a DDP therapist. A DDP is an acronym for Dyadic Developmental Psychotherapy, bit of a mouthful. We also have an art psychotherapist, as I said, and a counsellor in that team as well. And they work very closely alongside the Getting Help team employed by CAMS, who are CBT practitioners. So they are very much focused on children with mild to moderate anxiety, low mood, and work very close with our CBT practitioners within the wellbeing team. The wellbeing team, as well as offering one-to-one therapeutic support for referrals through the Early Help Hub, and some come directly via our social care colleagues. They also offer training, which is called, they mainly use pet care training, which is psychological perspectives in primary care training, which is predominantly for education staff, but covers a whole raft of topics with regard to mental health and well-being, including anxiety, low mood, self-harm, supporting parents and carers through schools, and many other core modules besides. They also offer tailored training to their linked schools, and they also offer group work. So, for example, they'll offer group work on exam anxiety, or anxiety around making friendships in schools, and social anxiety. They also offer a parent-led programme called Managing My Child's Anxiety, which during the course of the pandemic was actually created into an online course. And there are links on that through our local offer. So we join up very, very strongly with regard to, as I say, the predominantly the one-to-one therapeutic support, but also the training and also the workshops that we deliver to our schools. Hopefully that gives you a flavour.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Very useful. Thank you. So moving on to my next slide, which seems to have got stuck now. Let's see. Oh, there you go. Okay, so this slide, this talks about the process of referring. So you've heard about the two teams, the mental health support team and the getting help team. So if a parent, school or other professional has concerns about a young person or a child, they will then discuss that. They can discuss that with the school or someone within the Early Help Hub, and then a referral form is completed. Consent must be obtained before the referral form is submitted. And once submitted, either via the school, if the child attends one of those 14 schools that I mentioned, outside of that, if they do not attend any of those schools, it goes via the Early Help Hub. An assessment, if the referral is accepted, an assessment will be offered. And the purpose of that assessment is to explore the best option of support for that child, young person, or their family. If, as I said, that the child attends one of the mental health support team and the referral is appropriate, it will be picked up by that team. If it's for the getting help team and it's an appropriate referral, it will be picked up by the getting help team. If it's not appropriate for either of those services, then we will support with signposting if it is still for early intervention support. If we feel that the referral meets the criteria for specialist CAMS, we will help the referrer to access those services. It doesn't mean that we can ensure that the young person is seen sooner, but we can support that transition. Okay. Right, I'll just skip that slide for a second. So Rebecca talked a little bit about how we offer support. So this slide is just going to give you an overview about the different types of support offered by the mental health support team and the getting help team. So for both teams, they offer support to children who have emerging mental health needs. So very low levels of anxiety or low mood or behavioural difficulties. If the child or young person is under 12, the work is offered with the parent and carer. For children attending secondary schools, we work directly with the young person. We can offer one-to-one work or small group work. And as I mentioned, we can offer also parent-led interventions. In terms of the mental health support team, what they offer separately to the getting help team is the whole school approach, which I mentioned as part of the services that we would be offering to schools. So that consists of peer mentoring. So if a school has a peer mentoring service, we would either help them to develop that. If they do not have a peer mentoring service, especially in secondary schools, we'll help them to introduce one. Okay. We'll deliver whole school assemblies. And if you remember the Thrive model, which I referred to at the beginning, and the yellow aspect of the Thrive model, which stated thriving, this falls under the thriving element. So that whole school assembly around building resilience, reducing bullying in school, looking after yourself, various topics is what the mental health support team will deliver on to help the school to improve well-being. We offer consultation and surgeries. So within the schools, staff members could approach us on an ad hoc basis, or they could attend one of our 6 weekly surgeries where they can have discussions with us about children that either have been referred to specialist CAMS or other services, and they need some more support and guidance, how to manage their behaviour, etc. in school, or it might be that they're thinking about a possible new referral to our service or to another service, and they just want to explore it with us as to what the best steps are to make about a referral, who would be the best professional service to work with the child or the young person. So those are the benefits of having consultation sessions and surgeries within schools. With the whole school approach, it's so much bigger than the whole school assemblies and peer mentoring. It's about the schools looking at their development or action plan for the whole of that academic year and thinking about where on the action plan does it feature emotional well-being, and what does that look like? How they're going to deliver that throughout the sessions? How are they going to upskill staff? How are we going to be involved with training staff? So it's a whole medley of resources that we can offer to support schools. The Getting Help teams, what they offer separate to the mental health support teams is the multi-agency triage. So when I showed you the staffing within the Getting Help team, I mentioned the clinical supervisors. They work closely with the Early Help Hub. So when referrals come into the Early Help Hub that require mental health intervention, they will triage those referrals. They will also deliver training with the Early Help hubs, and they will also provide consultation. But in addition to that, they may join up with the wellbeing team staff members and do a joint piece of work for a child or young person that needs additional support. So that's the similarities and differences between the two teams. On the left-hand side of this grid, you can see a list of support that we can offer for children and young people. However, I say that with a caveat because it depends on the experience of the practitioners. As I mentioned earlier, some of our practitioners are trainees and they will be able to cover all of that area. Some of our practitioners are qualified members of staff and they may be able to do a little bit more. However, where we are not able to help, again, as I said, we will help the child to access other services or the young person. Okay. The different types of support that we offer. For the under 12s, we work, as I said, predominantly with the parents, and we use the informed aspects of the Incredible Years parenting program to help with behavioural difficulties. And for worry management, we use the Kathy Creswell's program to help children manage their fears and worries. And it's all evidence-based, and we've had a lot of good feedback about the work that has come out of using these two particular manuals. For those children over the age of 12, we used Informed CBT, and I won't have time to talk about that with you today, but it's very much evidence-based. And again, we've got lots of information to say that 6 to 8 sessions of Informed CBT does actually have a very positive impact on children and young people experiencing challenges in these areas. I've talked about group works and how we support parents, staff and students. And I think my last slide is on whole school approach, which I've mentioned. I'm just aware of time. And I just wanted to share this slide with you, which is some of the feedback that we've got from parents as well as children. So I'll read them out. So the first 3 highlighted in blue are from children. I was always taken seriously by my practitioner and asked my opinion like it mattered. It wasn't as scary as I expected. Second one, they were very nice to me and I felt welcome. The timings are flexible and I never feel stressed out during or before our meetings. I have seen visible improvement. They listened to me and helped me deal with stress and worries. And finally, from our parents, I got a lot of information and ways to help my son. Our practitioner was always 100% focused and knew exactly what she was talking about. She was caring and easy to talk to. And finally, I'm really enjoying these sessions. They help me focus on what I now need to do to support my child. Thank you so much. I think it's always a really good way to end, showing how our service users value the service. So I'm going to leave it there, and I can see that there's some questions in the chat. Joe, I don't know if you want me to address them now or after the other presentations.
Well, I think it might be good to do them now, if that's okay. We're doing well for time, Pauline. It's only 10:30, so you did really well to get through all those slides in that time. And because a lot of the questions are about the mental health schools team, I think it might be a good idea to address it now before we go on to like the other things.
Okay.
So I know you can all see the questions, but I'm just going to read them out as they come in, and then we can tackle each one. And it might be that Rebecca's best to answer them, or Pauline. So I'll let you guys decide. But the communication about the mental health schools team. Have I got that right? Is it MHST, mental health schools team?
Mental health support team.
Oh, sorry. Mental health support team. When is it going to go out to families? When will they know about it? A couple of people on the session today have both commented to me to say that they didn't even know that their school was a host school. And what does it mean if your school is a host school? And what difference should you see? So do you want to have a go at answering that before I ask the next one?
Yes, so I'll start off with what does it mean to be a host school. So the mental health support team, they have 3 trainees within the team at the moment, the education mental health practitioners, and this is their training year. So from January until the end of the summer year, they need somewhere where they can work with children and young people and work with schools. So the host schools simply means that they are hosting the trainees. Okay, we are speaking with all schools at the moment to think about when the service goes live in September, how is the best way to let parents and carers know about the service. So it isn't live at the moment, but it will be live in September. And it's at that point or during the summer term that you will have more information about the services. Rebecca, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just to say, obviously over the next few months and already really through this academic year, we've been meeting with those 14 schools, obviously to prepare a smooth sort of inception of that project. As Pauline said, we have the host schools, which are already supporting those trainees as of literally this month. Which is excellent. So they're really ironing out any issues with regard to internal referral, looking at the cases, looking at the appropriateness of the individual cases that are being put forward. But so that's going to obviously support our learning as we move forward. We hold sort of cluster meetings with those 14 schools, and indeed we hold separate host school meetings. As I say, we've been doing that through this year so far, but we'll continue to do that right the way through to July and at the start of September. And the purpose of those is to discuss the comms, is to iron out any issues and to make sure that everything's plain sailing when we start. So it will be very much on the agenda, the comms, the communication and how we highlight that to parents and carers. It's very likely that you will certainly see something on the school's website among some maybe leaflets and other things that are handed out by the school, whether it'll be in the school newsletter. Obviously every school does that slightly differently, but we would certainly be encouraging our 14 schools to put information on their websites.
Absolutely, thanks. And there's another question from Liz, and it says, are the ELMs allocated to host school and then a cluster of the specific schools, or do they all work across all schools? So it's a really good question. So they will, from September, they will be allocated a group of schools. So they will each have, we're short one EMP at the moment, but the aim is that they'll have 3 or 4 schools each from September onwards. And they will see students from secondary as well as primary schools. So I hope that answers your question, Liz.
There was a question further down that was asked about what does it mean if my child's in a school that's not one of the 14. So by September, you hope to have all schools having an EMP, which stands for
Education Mental Health Practitioner. So the 14 schools in that list that I presented earlier will have EMPs. Every child that attends the other schools within Windsor and Maidenhead will be supported by the Getting Help team, the Wellbeing team, so via the Early Help Hub. Okay.
But as part of the programme, important to say that as the programme moves forward for those 14 schools, obviously this is a rolling programme as we move forward over the next sort of 5+ years. So there may be further bids to obviously increase the number of schools that have a mental health support team. So this isn't a sort of fixed number forevermore. So I suppose that's the first thing to say. The other thing to say is that part of the agreement with our 14 schools is that there will be some sharing. So they'll act like a network for the other schools across the borough. As they learn, they will be sharing that learning with the other schools that don't currently have a mental health support team.
Yeah, and there's another important question here about co-production, which I didn't mention. We do co-produce our services with young people. So young people sit on our interview panels. We've created some leaflets about the services and had input from young people. We're currently creating a video, and the young people are really instrumental in what that would look like. So right the way through the development of the mental health support team and the Getting Help team, we have produced the services with them.
Brilliant. Can I ask a question about age? Because you talk a lot about from age 12, but some children that go to secondary are still 11. Does that just mean if they're 11 in secondary, they wouldn't get support? Or
So, sorry, if they're 11, if they're attending 11 and above, usually would be one-to-one directly with that individual. But primary school children, we work with the parents and carers. However, that being said, if we've got a primary child aged 11 or 10, and they have the ability to access the intervention offered to them, then there's no reason why we wouldn't work with that young person.
okay.
Just to re-clarify, in terms of the wellbeing team, that is slightly different to avoid any confusion. So our wellbeing team work with children aged 5 up to 18 years, as long as they attend a school in the Royal Borough. So there's a slight differential with regard to age. But in terms of the cognitive behavioural therapy approach that Pauline's been describing, we use that similar model because that is grounded in research. And as Pauline said, it's evidence-based. So for the younger children, we would tend to support the parent, again, using the Crestwell and Willits model, managing my child's worries. And for older students, this is particularly for anxiety, per se, we would obviously do some direct work with that young person.
Thank you, that's really clear. Can I ask a question about the work that you do with parents for those primary age children? I was just keen to know, I've read the Kathy Cresswell book, and I did find it really interesting, but it was quite hard to read. It's quite, I think you'd have to be, for me, I felt like if I was a professional, I would understand it a lot easier. So do you offer, one of the quotes you had about feedback from parents was that they got a lot out of the sessions. So do you run like a program, like an Incredible Years program, or is it like worksheets, or like how do you give the parents that support? Is it just, here's the name of the book, go and buy it?
So with the sessions that we offer with the parents, they are to work through those books. So I think it's about the first 6 chapters that we ask the parent to read on their own. And then we journey with them throughout the book and help them to kind of implement the program. So they're not left on their own with the book. It's a full 6 to 8 week program that we support them with.
Okay, that would really help, because I didn't have that. And I struggled with it, so yeah. It
is hard, isn't it, when you're having to do it on your own, so I can understand that. Okay.
Thank you. I think we've answered all the questions. There was a question about the mental health support team working with governors, because obviously they're key to a school, and if they were included, it would help with sort of strategic planning and development planning.
Yeah, they would absolutely be involved.
Yeah,
they would absolutely be involved. The whole school community are involved with the mental health support team, so they would be very much drawn into any conversation. And actually a big part of that whole school approach is making sure that the school development plans and the policies are actually serving that school community with regard to mental health well-being in the best way. So yes, absolutely is the answer to that, Liz.
Brilliant, thank you. If anyone's got any more questions or comments, please do pop them in the chat function, but we'll let you go on to your next bit.
Okay, so I think, thank you very much. The next presentation would be from ShaRon Platforms, that's Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah Wise. I'm a senior project manager for ShaRon, which stands for Support, Hope and Recovery Online Network. It's very much about peer-to-peer support, and it's obviously online. And I think the best way to actually talk about what it is to show you. So I'm going to share my screen. So let me know when you can see it.
Perfect, we can see that.
Lovely, thank you. So we have ShaRon's in a variety of services. This one I'm showing you is our adult learning disability service, but we have them in the autistic spectrum condition service for children and young people waiting for a diagnosis or who have a diagnosis. The same for ADHD, the same for anxiety and depression and the Getting Help team. The same for our eating disorders team, and we have one in talking therapies, and we also have one for professionals across education and health, which is the newest one. So the basic premises is peer-to-peer support and information. And this is what ShaRon looks like. It's very much a Facebook clone, so it's very easy to use. But we also appreciate the fact that parents need information 24/7. When you've got a problem and services are closed, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 is not when you're going to have a problem. It tends to be in the evening, at the weekends, and where do you go for help? So ShaRon is available 24/7, 365 days a year, anywhere in the world where you can get an internet connection. So you can get this support when you're on holiday and your child or young person is having a meltdown, or you need a little bit of advice and support. This is available, and it's available on laptops, iPhones, Android phones, tablets, any digital device as well. Obviously, it is NHS branded. So the information we have on here has had to go through the stringent checks for NHS information. So it's not like Facebook where you can get some really quite dodgy information. We have clinicians on here. We have volunteers who are people who are peer moderators, we call them. They have been through the service themselves and have come out the other end. So a parent with a child who's gone through anxiety and depression pathway may well want to come back and give some support and help. However, ShaRon is not a crisis service, but we do appreciate the fact that crises occur at, sometimes when normal services are closed. So we always have crisis help information available, and it's all hyperlinked so you can get exactly what you want when you need to. Plus this sort of basic techie stuff, like terms and conditions and things like that. But one of the most useful things is the forums, which is basically an online library where you can get information about whatever the subject is you're looking for. So this is for adults with learning disabilities, and obviously COVID-19, they have specific needs. They don't understand social distancing maybe, or the importance of hand washing. So we have lots and lots of information around that in a way that the parents, relatives and carers can access and can share with their young person. Long-term conditions as well, absolutely anything. But we appreciate that transition for children and young people and their families is absolutely crucial and really difficult. I've been through it myself with a child with a physical health problem, and going from pediatrics to adult services for somebody who's a health professional was a real shock to me. And I think it's something that parents worry about right the way through their child or young person's development, whatever their issues are, whether they're physical, mental health issues, whatever it is. And what we're looking to do is to develop ShaRons for children and young people to transition, so that they start off on a pathway. The relatives and carers have something that they can access for children and young people with whatever the issues are. So if it's complex health needs, then we could develop a ShaRon for complex health needs, and we then pull in all the resources that relate to that. It's a really inclusive, supportive community. We have things like blogs which people can write a blog about their lives. We know writing can be very therapeutic for parents, and they can share that. But the best place to share their issues is actually on the homepage. And all they do is post something, whatever's going on for them. It can be a good morning. It can be, I'm having a really difficult time with sleep, with anxiety, with whatever it is. Or it can be, you know, I've got issues around benefits, or how do I access this, that, and the other. Whatever it is, somebody will be able to come back to you with signposting, or signposting to information on ShaRon, or we can link to other websites. There are videos on as well. If you see moderator, it's one of our clinicians. And again, here, it's something about recent news stories on television about people with learning disabilities and their experiences of politics and voting. So it's really up to date. And we would really, we're doing some market research really to see if this is something that you would find of interest. We really are interested in co-design. What is it you want? How can we link it? It has to be within Berkshire Healthcare Foundation Trust, because that's who is funding it at the moment. But if it's external from that, we can look to get some commissioners involved and commission the services. So any questions, anything you want to know, please just pop it in the chat, and I will get back to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, that's brilliant. We have had a question, and it's probably one that you were expecting, is that looks great, and I think peer-to-peer support for parents is absolutely, you know, essential, because often you get more, you know, no disrespect to the professionals on the call today, but speaking to people that are like living it and breathing it, it's often really helps you feel less isolated. But the question is, how do we get access to the ShaRon platform?
Okay, so it very much depends on your circumstance. If you are already in, if you've got a child and young person under 25, it depends on what services they are in at the moment. So if they are in a specialist CAMS service, say for autism, then it's about talking to your health professional. However, there may well not be a ShaRon platform there yet for your particular circumstance. So if you want to, if you say, right, but there isn't one for me, that's what we want to know as well. If you're in a service, then your health professional should be able to do a referral. It has to be a referral from a health professional, and that's to make sure that you're in the right place, basically, because we want to give the right support to the right people.
So if you were a parent waiting on a wait list for a ASC assessment, is it possible to be part of the ShaRon? Because that's often when you need the help the most.
Absolutely, and that is exactly why we started. It's called Junie. It's our neurodevelopment ShaRon platform, and if you are on the wait list, you should have already been offered ShaRon. That is exactly why we had it, because we had waiting lists of up to 2 years. And if you're making a phone call, you've already been through goodness knows how many years of anxiety and stress before you've even got to a GP to get to a referral, to be told you've got another 2 years wait with nothing. So that's exactly why we had the ShaRon. So if you are in that team waiting for an assessment, please contact them on their helpline.
Also worth mentioning the GEMS service. I don't know if parents and carers are aware of that service, but very much worth mentioning that localised service as well, who support prior to or during that assessment phase. They're a really good service that have started this year.
We actually have a talk with GEMS. We did a session just like this. We did it in the evening actually, and it was really good. And it is recorded. So when I send out the notes from today's session with Pauline's presentation, I'll pop the recording on the YouTube clip for that recording because it was good. And I'll put the link to GEMS in our chat function as well. But they offer something called Early Bird, the NAS courses, the National Autistic Society courses, which are Early Bird, which I can highly recommend. They do one for younger and one for teens, so it's well worth it. And they're running on a weekly basis across virtual platforms at the moment. So, and just checking some more questions. Age, what age could, if I had a child, is it from 5 upwards that we would be able to access ShaRon?
It depends on, we certainly have ShaRons for relatives and carers, so it doesn't matter what age the child is. So relatives and carers, it depends on, say, what the child's issues are as to which ShaRon, but yes, age isn't an issue because it's relatives and carers.
Brilliant. Okay, so we had a question say that if my child was autistic, has to be referred to ShaRon. So I think you just answered that, Sarah. So it's depending on where you are, then you'll get referred to that. I did go on the screen to say, and it just gives you a login. So you must give parents a login and they log into that.
Absolutely. So that's why you have to have a referral by a health professional. So we can set you up, give you the login, and then you've got access to everything. You can just use it to look for information. You can use it to you know, what we call chat on the homepage. It's very much for people to use as and when and what they need.
And I just wanted to ask a question about who could access it. So if I had a login and my parents, for example, were looking after my son, would they then be able to use my login to go in? Because often people that are, you know, that are close to you, close family, like husband, you know, can they use the ShaRon on that one same login? I don't know.
No, we would offer them their own login.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because it's also anonymous. We don't use people's real names. So they may want to post something that they might feel might upset you if you knew about it. So it's relatives and carers. So well be, you know, as you say, child carer, or grandparents, or older siblings if they're over 18, because they will have their own issues that they want to actually share about that young person or child. So they would have their own login.
Brilliant, thank you.
Sarah, can I just ask a question, Sherry? I know that you're thinking of this new project or initiative around ShaRon, and you're welcoming feedback from parents and carers. How do people get in contact with you, Sarah, if they've got ideas around the new platform that they'd like you to consider?
So, Jo, do you have my email address?
Jo?
I'm on
Jo,
mute. Yes, of course I do. I'll pop it in the email that I send out directly after the session.
Yeah, so please email me with any ideas. You have a child or young person that you think, if you let me know a little bit about the situation, then I can tell you what we're doing. But we're really looking to co-design ShaRons that suit you as a family rather than squeeze families into boxes, if that makes sense.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to butt in with a question. I didn't want to have to type it all out, but my daughter is on the autism wait list.
Yes.
Assessment wait list. Is there any place where we can go to see all the resources we have available to us while we're on the wait list? I mean, because I'm just finding out about them, hearing about it at school or joining the session, hearing about it. But no one sent me a document that says, okay, while you're waiting, these are all the things that you can do while you're waiting.
Yeah, where are you waiting? Is it Berkshire Healthcare Foundation Trust?
Do you know, I'm assuming, I don't know, my staff at the school just said we've submitted your paperwork, and I haven't received any documentation, say who I'm waiting for or what I can do while I'm waiting or anything like that.
Okay,
And maybe Maybe I
Yeah.
just in the post or something. I don't know.
Yeah, as soon as that documentation goes through, you should get a telephone call and you should be offered ShaRon. But meanwhile, if you email me, please, Megan,
Okay.
and I can just have a look and see what's going on from that point of view. Because, you know, yes, referral processes do take a bit of time. I don't know how long it is that documentation went in.
Well, this is also my second time around, to be honest. And I don't know if I just forgot what happened last time, but I don't remember receiving like a list of saying like, oh, these are all the things you can do while you wait. I mean, I'm just by chance finding out what I could be doing while I wait, like go to autism group, go to GEMS,
Absolutely,
website.
yeah.
Like I'm just finding out about it only because I'm investing the time to come to meetings and talk to people and stuff.
Yeah, that's very much what this is about, and ShaRon would you know, give you those links.
Okay.
So
I would certainly say as well, Megan, that's why the GEMS service was set up, so that parents, carers had a sort of a one-stop shop, as it were, to get advice and signposting. I noticed Christine Doyle really helpfully has put also Autism Berkshire and the autism group in the chat there. So there are the very well-respected services in the Royal Borough, but certainly for a one-stop place to get some signposting and what you can do, I would go to GEMS and have a discussion with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And there was a question posed, I don't know whether you can answer today, but just can you tell us what the current wait list is like if you're in that where Megan is at the moment? Is there a possibility to put a number on?
It's really hard to say. It depends what wait list you're on. You know, so if I think about the ASD wait list, it could be like 18 months. Another one could be a few months. They're all very different. And it's best to speak to the referrer, the team that the child is under, and find out from the team specifically how long the wait would be.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I can't be of any further information on that, but it does differ from team to team.
Thank you. So I think I'm just double checking. There was one question about if you haven't been offered ShaRon, who would you suggest to go back to? Should you ring the support line, or where would you suggest to ring?
yeah, absolutely. To go back to your health professional who referred you, it may be that they don't know about ShaRon. I mean, I hope not, but you know, sometimes not everybody knows everything by any means. We have been around for 12 years in a variety of, we started with an eating disorder service. We've obviously been expanding since then, but not everybody knows everything. And if you don't get any luck there, email me, please.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's about, you know, sometimes about parents telling people about them to make them aware.
Yes.
And when you get put on that pathway, it's great if you could have all that information, because it does feel like a long time, you know, when you're in perhaps crisis.
Very much so. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm conscious of time. We're going to run over slightly. I hope everybody's okay with that. If you're not, the session is being recorded and we'll definitely get, as soon as we can, it uploaded to our YouTube channel so that you can watch the ending if you have to dash off. But I know Pauline's about to introduce yet another speaker, I think. Yes,
so the final speaker for you all this morning is Jenny Fennessy from Kooth. I can't actually see Jenny, but yeah, so Jenny, do you want to turn your camera on? Are you there? Okay. So if you just introduce yourself and then go straight into your presentation.
Thanks. My name is Jenny, as Pauline said. I'm the Senior Engagement Lead for Kooth. I'm not going to go fully through all of my slides, but hopefully just being able to introduce you to Kooth as a service. Part of my role is to engage with schools and users, young people themselves, to introduce Kooth and what it is. So Kooth is a digital mental health service aimed at supporting children and young people with their mental health and well-being. And we describe our service as sort of early intervention right up to those young people who might be waiting on a CAMHS appointment or all of the different other services that are there. So with Kooth, we see ourselves as working alongside services and hoping to support them with capacity. So in East Berkshire, so across East Berkshire, and I cover West Berkshire as well. Young people have access from aged 11 up to their 19th birthday, and then up to their 26th birthday if they have left care or if they had some special educational needs along the way. So quite a huge age range. The service is free for young people to use, and it gives them instant access to lots of different supports. So they don't need a referral. Once you know about Kooth and you're in the area that's covered by Kooth, you just go to kooth.com on a phone, a laptop, a tablet, and you set up your account. It takes under 2 minutes to do that, and then there's a range of different supports available. So when I talk to parents and young people and professionals about Kooth, they divide it into 3 different sections. So there's professional support. So when you have an account on Kooth, you have access to counsellors and emotional well-being practitioners, instant access, so there's no waiting list. So it works like a chat queue system. So you go onto the site, you can click a button to request a chat. Depending on the time in the evening, you might come in instantly to the chat, or it could be up to 19 minutes waiting, but you have instant support from a professional. So young people can either be in a one-to-one chat, because it's all text-based, there's no voice and video, with a professional, or they can message the professional almost like a little email. And so to give an example, sometimes a young person might message and say, I'm not sleeping really good the last few weeks. I feel quite anxious or quite stressed, or I'm having nightmares, or maybe they're worried about transitioning from primary to secondary school, or it's bullying or something. So whatever is worrying that young person, they can message the team and they're going to get a response from a professional. And then the chat option gives them that option to be in that live one-to-one chat, like a WhatsApp chat, for up to an hour. We also then have peer support, and peer support is really important for young people to get validated in their experiences, share their experiences, post their questions. And we have a few different ways that they do that via our magazine and our discussion boards. What's really great about Kooth is everything is moderated, which means a young person can't pose a question or write an article without it being read by our team first. That's to make sure that we can check in on the well-being of that young person, to make sure that they're not putting anything too risky up there, or if they need some intervention from us. And similar, if a young person is brave enough to share their story or their poems or however they want to express themselves, that they're not going to get trolling or negative feedback. And a young person can also use our site in terms of self-help. So we have mini activities, well-being, mindfulness-based activities that they can do. So they go on, there's 22 there at the moment, but there will be more over time. They can select them. They do them offline. So there's things like draw a song, create a coping box for yourself, writing a letter to your future self. So they're all the types of activities a professional might give you in between sessions as homework to do. And the idea is to encourage young people to do one small thing every day towards their mental health and well-being. Because we've seen over the last year a huge increase in young people who maybe never had issues with their emotions or their well-being. Suddenly, you know, due to the loss of friends, change in school, not having your sports and activity, suddenly feeling a lot more. We've seen rises in anger, sadness and loneliness as topics that young people come to talk to us about. So I'm going to just skip down because this is from a larger session that we have with parents, and we run them monthly, and you should get the updates via the schools that and I give more of a background to Kooth, and I will show you live on the session what the Kooth website looks like. But just to skip forward again to why young people are coming to Kooth. We give them the sense that if it's worrying you, it's worth talking about. So they talk about their families, their friends, sleeping difficulties. As I mentioned, those feelings of sadness and loneliness. We've seen a significant rise in eating difficulties for young people. And what I'll say about our service is we are anonymous, similar to the ShaRon platform. So young people, when they set up their account, have a username and password to come on and to access the service. And what we have seen in the last 20 years is that this anonymity has really supported a lot of young people who might feel ashamed or embarrassed about talking about their feelings. It's given them kind of a support in order to come forward and to name those things. We're not about holding young people online and keeping everything online and being anonymous. When we're working with a young person, we would see an important outcome for us, for a young person to share with their parents. So Kooth might be the first place they come and say, you know, I'm having difficulties with my eating. I've noticed this in the last few weeks, or, and we might, as I said, we're the first person they talk to, but part of that intervention will be building up their confidence to tell their parents or to tell a trusted adult, maybe a teacher in school or the school nurse. So that's a huge part of encouraging young people to reach out to what's around them. And as I mentioned, we're not trying to replace something. So we work alongside, and we can be alongside a young person as they are waiting for other services, but even while they engage in other services, because they can still use our magazine and or our peer support and the well-being activities. These were some stats that we had from last year, and we've seen, you know, a huge increase in young people being worried about school, exams, changing from primary to secondary school, difficulties with their friends, and those feelings of sadness and loneliness, and as I mentioned, anger. So we are a website, so it's there 24/7 for young people to access. But if they want to be in a live chat with the practitioners, it's Monday to Friday from 12 until 10 p.m. and at weekends from 6 until 10 p.m. every single day of the year, so even on holidays. And as I mentioned, it's really easy to set up the account. So they're just going to look for, if it was the Royal Borough, they would look for Windsor and Maidenhead, select from an area, their year of birth and their gender, and then they'll create that username and password, and they have instant access to all of that support. There's no thresholds and criteria for it, so this is open to all young people, as I said, across East Berkshire within that age range. So you don't have to wait, or you don't have to you know, look for a particular issue. We encourage young people to come on as early as possible so that they're having those kind of conversations. I have talked about, you know, the range of different supports. So we have a magazine. Our team write for that magazine, lots of articles around anxiety and stress, eating difficulties, and how to manage it, and to get some information for young people. But we also, as I mentioned, co-create with young people. We have a journal where they can create and write just every day how they're feeling, as a way to look at their triggers, what helps them and what's unhelpful. That live chat, and we also have 24-hour messaging. So that's the messaging I said. They can, at any point in the evening, they can send a message to the team about how they're feeling. And we know from feedback from young people, that's often done a lot to make them feel better. The fact that they've written down all of those worries, all of those stresses, and by the time they've written it out, they felt hugely just a weight lifted off, and then they have that opportunity to get a response from the team. And then some young people really enjoy using the peer support and forums for just sharing advice to other young people. And if they've been through bullying, or they've been through, you know, friendship issues, they're sharing advice to other young people, and they're seeing they're not alone. So I'm going to skip down through, because I have touched on them, and I know I've gone quite quickly through it. I know if one of the things that sometimes comes up around safeguarding and risk, we do have a team of like clinical psychologists, a safeguarding team, and a huge amount of qualified psychotherapists and counsellors. We are a BACP accredited service, so we do adhere to huge amounts of criteria about maintaining the quality of the service that we deliver in the same way that you would expect from a face-to-face service. For those younger users, we are also mindful of, you know, Gillett competency and their ability to understand what counselling might be. So those 11-year-olds, it may be youth support that they're offered, as opposed to counselling support. And if you want more information on that, you can email parents@kooth.com if you have any concerns or you want some further information, because I'm mindful I don't have a huge amount of time to go in, but we do have all of that there. And signposting is really important for us to do as well. So with signposting, I mean, we are aware of all of those other services around a young person, and we encourage them to talk to maybe mum or dad about it, and to look at, you know, what other supports are out there, so that they're building a larger support network and not just having, you know, one particular service to fill in their gaps. So I'm going to just kind of finish on the key messages. So Kooth is available for young people. It's free, it's safe, and it's anonymous. And we are a BACP accredited service, and everything is moderated on there. Because I know sometimes when we talk about digital services and being online, there can be lots of different concerns. And that's why we're running the parent sessions once a month now. So you can come in, we'll go live onto the site to see it, and you have a lot more space for me to go in depth to a lot more of, you know, why young people are coming and what happened in different scenarios. So hopefully I didn't go too quick, but enough to know that it's a service working alongside all of the other services that we've heard today.
That's
Thank
brilliant.
you. Very comprehensive, even though you had the shortest amount of time. So thank you. I used up a lot of your time.
Thanks.
Over to you, Jo.
Thank you, and thanks, Jenny. Great job. I did put in the chat function your next parent session on the 19th of May. I've put the Google form link that you've sent out to us. So, and I'll add it to the email with the notes for today. It's on the 19th of May between 7 and 8 p.m. So
Thanks, Bill.
fab. Well, thank you, everyone. I don't think we've had any questions about Kooth. Just saying what amazing services you've come on to share with us today. So thank you very much. And thanks for being part of the session. I've got a couple of email addresses that people have sent me that want the presentation notes and notes that I've taken while we've been chatting. If anyone hasn't given me their email address, please do, because I happily send it across to you. But just want to say a big thank you today for joining us. We've got another talk, and I'm hoping Wade is listening, because we've got a talk with Health Watch, and I'm thinking, I can't remember what date that is, but I'll add it to the email. I think it might be the 13th of May, but it's in our newsletter that we send out, and we will be sharing it on our Facebook group. These sessions, oh, thank you, Wei. It's the 13th of May, 10 to 11 a.m. And that's Health Watch coming on to talk about how you can learn more about what services they offer, and also share with them experiences you've had using health services. Really useful organisation. So, and if anyone's got any ideas of any other speakers they would like to have, please give us a shout, because we're trying to do 2 sessions a month